Welcome. I'm going to call to order this regular school board meeting at 6:01 p.m. Can I have a roll call to establish quorum?
Student Trustee Chodak. Here. Student Trustee Shepard.
Here.
Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Hopwood. Here. Vice President Inglis.
Here.
President Mahoney.
Here.
Superintendent Stone. Here. Thank you.
Here. Sorry.
I'd now like to ask our student board members to read our foundational commitments, mission statement, and meeting norms.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Number 1, maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Number 2, ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Number 3, endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students. Number 4, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, the meeting agenda is approved. And now, for those of you who'd like, moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Now I'm going to open the floor for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Note that you'll be limited to 2 minutes, and pursuant to the Brown Act, the board may not comment or act on the items that are not posted on the agenda. Do we have any comments? Seeing none in the room, let me look online. Seeing none, we'll move on to our reports, starting with our student board member reports.
Okay, so last Wednesday we held the first math vision event in the Albany High School Little Theater, where we collected student feedback based on questions that we hope to encourage reflection on what's worked and what hasn't worked in their education throughout AUSD. And tomorrow we'll be presenting the results to the math vision team.
Last Monday, I got to attend the Superintendent's Equity Council. It was really fun to explore and think about different words regarding school curriculum that meant and what they meant to us, such as relationships and challenge. While we explained them, we got to be creative in how we present. We got to be creative about how we envisioned these words. And then a couple Fridays ago was the national shutdown/protest. Many AHS students missed class in order to participate in the protest. The protest at Dolores Park in San Francisco was actually organized by San Francisco high school students, and there were many young speakers throughout the day. Teachers supported our decisions and were flexible about making up work or giving us extensions. I just want to share the power that young voices hold and thank our teachers for not only supporting us in the classroom and helping us become better students, but also for supporting us in our beliefs in who we are as individuals.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Do we have any comments from our labor partners in the room? Terrific.
Hi there. We don't have a lot tonight. We wanted to really thank all our board members for joining us at the Al Costa School Board Breakfast on Saturday. It was very early, but thank you for getting up and joining us. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we might have been the only district in both counties that had every single one of our board members with us, which was really awesome. We're happy to have finally reached a tentative agreement, so thank you for all your hard work with us on that. We're in the midst of our ratification vote, so stay tuned. There was a little bit of confusion about whether we could or couldn't speak tonight about the alarms, with it being a report and not an item, and so I wasn't sure if anyone was going to come or not, so I'm just throwing in here that lots and lots of our members don't support the move to alarm all of our schools at this time, feeling that our priority should be addressing a lot of safety needs during the school day first. And we just want to offer that we're standing in solidarity with our United Educators of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Stone.
All right, thank you. I am going to hopefully share my screen. Someone else has shared? Okay. This is going to work. Wonderful. All right. Good evening, President Mahoney and board members. Tonight, I wanted to take the opportunity, since it's about mid-year. It's a little more than mid-year because we had our 100th day of school a few weeks ago. However, I did want to take the opportunity with my superintendent report tonight to just report on just some very high-level information about how we're doing this year and towards our goals. So as we know, we've been focusing on kind of three big priorities. One being equitable and inclusive instruction for all students, a sense of student belonging, and our collaborative systems. With our goals being a little bit more specific around closing our opportunity and proficiency gaps and improving academic growth for all students. And part of this has really been a huge effort this year to really work with our elementary teachers to adopt a new English language arts program, and we're well underway with that. And I think that we've made some great strides there, and I'm excited that we'll be able to share a little bit more about that during our Vital Signs presentation next month. But also, in order to know how we're doing, we want to look at our data. And so this year, another thing that we started is we have our DIBELS early literacy screener. It's a reading difficulty screener, as well as a way for us to figure out how our students are doing in terms of growth and literacy. And I'm excited to show at this point, and again, this is just a mid-year snapshot, very high level. We'll go deeper into this when we do our Vital Signs presentation. But you can look across our student groups just to see from the beginning of the school year to where we are right now, we are actually making some pretty steady growth in literacy. And I know that this has been something we've been really wanting to focus on for many, many, many years, especially around disproportionality and making sure that we're growing all of our students, each and every student. And so this can show kind of where we are. And again, we're going to go deeper into that when we do our Vital Signs presentation. But I'm really excited to share this. And I do want to just note that this is truly because of the incredibly hard work of our teachers. Our teachers this year have, as we all have heard many times, have taken on a new schedule and a lot of different things that maybe seem new and hard and different, and they've done it, and they have like absolutely shown what the impact. I also would say that, you know, this is continuing to be a work in progress, and a lot of what we've done this year is still not exactly where we want it to be in terms of how we're meeting the needs of each and every student. And so we're working with our teachers and our instructional leadership teams at schools to really iron those things out. So next year it feels more doable and better to our classroom teachers. So I would say that when you look at some of that growth, definitely What I Need Time has been something that I think has had some impact. I know that there's still a lot that we need to iron out with that. And I know our schedules aren't perfect yet, but what I think we can look at with this is that we're actually ensuring that all of our tier 2 supports, meaning our second teaching, is happening at a time that is not taking kids out of their tier 1 instruction. And so we're going to start to see more and more growth as a result of that. Again, I want to go back to our structured literacy pilot as well as our professional development. We've had some great professional development also for our early literacy, specifically at our ACC. And I heard actually a couple of weeks ago that Josh Reed, our director at ACC, mentioned that the staff who were involved in the SEEDS early literacy training really appreciated it and felt like it was useful and meaningful. So I'm excited to continue to do more of that. And some of these things I've already mentioned. One thing that I didn't share tonight is how we're doing with math. And as our focus this year has really been around early literacy and English language arts, I'm not highlighting math today, but we do know that the math vision and moving towards really shoring up what we're doing around mathematics instruction, pre-K all the way through 12, is extremely important. A few weeks ago, we were able to host a screening of Counted Out, an incredible film that I'm hoping to do more screenings for. And one of the things that I thought was so powerful and really resonated with me is we talk a lot about how reading is a civil right, math is also a civil right. And also the connection between math and social justice was just really resonated with me. So we're going to be continuing to move that conversation forward. Student belonging, again, we have some goals here. Our goal is to decrease chronic absenteeism and ensure that we're really looking at our student focal groups when we're looking at that data to ensure that the students who, again, have been most historically marginalized, that we're paying attention and we're figuring out how do we ensure that our schools are places where they feel a sense of care, safety, and belonging. And currently, where we are with that is, we've maintained stability. We've definitely improved in some areas in terms of chronic absenteeism. I mean, I will say that our rates are really great when you look at this compared across other school districts. But for me, I don't want to see any of our students chronically absent if there's something that we can do to support them. So I think we're going to continue to do some work on this, and we're excited about that. So again, part of what we're really focusing on is calibrating our systems. So looking at when students are absent repeatedly, having a similar system across all of our schools to manage that information and that data and have conversations related to that based on the data we have. Continuing to really hone our practices around inclusion. And so in the future, we're going to be talking about a little bit more about our affinity group, our family affinity groups, and making sure that we're clear about the purpose of our affinity groups and how that's supporting students and their sense of belonging at school. And we're continuing to partner as Trustee Shepard mentioned at the Equity Council meeting, we started a conversation about how we're really creating a sense of care and belonging across our district. Restorative practices, we have a few really known in the field across the entire country, restorative practice facilitators in our own district. I'll just shout them out, Deb Brill and Ms. Camille Fisher, and they're right here. And so we want to continue to use our own talent to build out our support of kids through restorative practices. And then we're continuing to really focus on leadership development. We did hold a professional development for our site leaders on intersecting injustices, and we're continuing to build on our understanding of that so that we can continue to talk about how are we supporting our students to be able to make meaning of and have critical conversations about what are controversial issues, or I like to now call them hot topics, and helping our leaders to be able to help our teachers to be supported in that so that our kids can have those conversations. And some of the other things we've been focusing on, and at this moment I don't really have like data to share specifically, but just more of like some accomplishments. One of the goals, again, or one of the priorities is collaborative systems. And so it's kind of broken down into several goals. One is to recruit and retain staff and strengthen trust. And so some of the things we're working on right now is partnering with the Black Teacher Project to start to have some professional learning and engagement for our staff, specifically principals and cabinet, about how we can attract and retain more teachers who resemble the students that we serve. And one of the things I'm trying to do is be at the schools as much as possible. I actually, this week, well, today, I was at the middle school, and my plan is to be there for the rest of the week when I'm not at other meetings. What I've found is, for me, number one, it helps me to just know what's going on and understand and have a better sense of what the day-to-day is in the schools. But also it helps, I think, like today I had a few teachers come up to me and just have a quick conversation. Hey, have you thought about, or here, I'm concerned about this and that. So it just gives me, I think, more access to what folks are thinking about and what they need support with. So I would encourage people, when they see me at schools, come and talk to me. More feedback loops. Executive Cabinet, at the beginning of January, had a mid-year retreat to really think about our operations and how we're encouraging better systems, but also having a feedback loop around those systems so that when people need support from the district home office, they're receiving it in a timely manner. And then these are things that are ongoing conversations. And then, yeah, I think one of the things I feel strongly about is that we have the most hardworking staff across the board, teachers, classified staff, you name it. They are incredibly hardworking. They care so much, and we want to really make sure that we're honoring that and lifting up those folks. So we're going to continue. Oh, my computer's acting, so I apologize. We're going to continue that work. Goal 5 and Goal 7 is really around operational excellence and data. And again, we've done some things this year, and I've talked about this before, but we're continuing. We need really reliable data platforms that we can easily access and use so that we know what's going on. And so we're working on that. We're going to be piloting another data system, Panorama, for our coordination of services team. Again, so part of what we're trying to do is understand what's happening for our kids, not just from an academic perspective, but from a social emotional perspective. But you need that data in one place, and you need to be able to continue to go back and look at it and make decisions based on that. So that's going to be a very important next step. Fiscal responsibility. We're underway with budget. Right now, we've had 3 budget development meetings so far with our sites, and so this week tomorrow we have the middle school, and then we have 2 of our elementaries at the end of this week, and that's our first round of budget development. When we're finished with that, the expectation is that principals are going back to their communities, they're talking to their communities about the decisions that need to be made based on data, and then they're going to be co-constructing plans and getting feedback on the budgets, and then bringing those back to our final budget what we call lock-in sessions. And we also know that it's important for us to think about how are we using our budget effectively to support our students who are the most historically marginalized and vulnerable. And so we're looking at using the FCMAT materials. FCMAT stands for financial, of course I'm going to forget what that is, but it's basically the state's financial crisis and management assistance team. Thank you so much. We're going to be using those materials to look at our special education program and see, are we really using our dollars in the most effective way to support our most vulnerable students? We're working on our facilities master plan with a bunch of stakeholder engagement. So people should be looking very shortly, soon, maybe in the next couple of days. We're going to have on our website a facilities master plan specific page. and people will be able to give their feedback on what they would like to see us do with the amazing bond money that we received from our community. And we're continuing to just to keep, and tonight we'll be doing a safety presentation, but really the goal at the core around safety is that we need the infrastructure and the training to support safety. And so hearing loud and clear from our teachers and from other staff, yes, during the day safety has to be addressed. I don't want it to be a zero-sum game. All of these things need to be addressed. And we need to have really solid infrastructure, and we also need to have the supports in place to make sure everyone's safe. My number one priority as the superintendent is safety at the end of the day. And enhancing communication and inclusion. We're really working hard to be more transparent, and communication's tricky. Definitely always improving. I try to be very reflective and learn from mistakes and learn how to do better. And so my motto is always know better, do better. And so the more information we get, the better we can get. So communication is important, and it has to be two-way. A big part of enhancing communication and inclusion is just in terms of where people can find information, ease of use, et cetera. So I think our new district website has definitely done it's getting there. And I do want to appreciate Kim Trutain specifically for supporting us with that new district website. She did tireless hours of making it work. And I also want to appreciate Eric Polovich for the support that he also gave. And we're going to continue to improve other systems around communication and other access points. Yeah, that's about what I'm going to say about that. And what I'm excited about and what we're going to be launching after the midwinter break is we're going to start to gather feedback from our community about where we're trying to go, where we're trying to head. What is the portrait of our Albany graduate? What is it that we want our students to be able to do, to be able to, how do we want them to think? What are we preparing for them in the world? And how are we really living up to the mission that we have for our kids? And in order to do that, we do need to actually collect people's info, like what is it that people truly, truly want for a graduate? We're going to hear a lot of different ideas and a lot of different people's hopes and dreams. And the goal is that this is actually going to help us to develop a really strong and robust strategic plan that we can map all of our work onto in the future. And so I really do want if we could get every single person's voice in this community to give feedback on this, it will only make it better and stronger. And so there will be different ways for people to give their feedback. We're going to do the old-fashioned survey. We're going to do some in-person activities. We have a couple budget town halls coming up. One is tomorrow, and it's online. It's on Zoom, hoping people will show up. We're going to be specific tomorrow about special education. And then when we get back from the midwinter break, we have our Student Achievement Committee, which will be doing a budget town hall. And that, again, is just like overall looking at all student achievement. But again, that will be one way for people to give their feedback. Again, we'll have the survey, and then we're going to try and think of some other creative ways for people to give their feedback. And one thing I will say that's going to be very important about this is I really want as many of our kids to give their feedback as well, because actually, we're doing this for our students. We do what we do every day because of them. Without our students, I wouldn't have a job. So I'm very excited about this work, and I'm excited to see what we come up with. So thank you. That is my mid-year report. Oh, sorry. No, I have a couple other things. I apologize. Oh, wait, there's more. I thought that was it. So I do want to just reiterate that one of the goals, hearing loud and clear from our teachers, co-construction of elementary schedules, our ELA rollout next year, all of the things that we need to do to ensure that our teachers are able to do what they're supposed to do, which is be with our kids and teach our students. We want to make it as easy for them as possible, but we also need to hear their voices. And so that's well underway. I know that Karen Schreiner has been working very closely with site leaders as well as teacher teams on this. My goal with the support of our 2 student board members is to start a student superintendent advisory committee that is students talking to me regularly, but also talking to each other about leadership and what we can do. We'll be piloting, as I said, the Panorama online platform, which is really a data management platform. And we're hosting our community town halls. We'll continue to have Equity Council and parent caregiver affinity groups come together and then start to think about what are some guidelines and supports that we want to put in place to make those groups really focused in on, I think, what the intention has always been, to create a sense of care and belonging across our district. We'll be using our FICMAT tool, and we're going to continue our budget development. Now I am done. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. We'll go turn to the next item on the agenda, which is board committee reports. Nothing from Trustee Boyd. Trustee Khan, anything?
I attended the DLAC budget town hall because I'm swapping with Trustee Boyd for the SPED, but it was wonderful to see. Sorry, I am like so tired right now. But Linda present on the budget alongside Michelle. I know we had a small but mighty group, but folks asked some really thoughtful questions, and I think that's the whole point of being able to educate our community on where the money goes and where it comes from and what it looks like. I also had the chance to attend the Equity Council meeting alongside Trustee Boyd and Student Trustee Shepard, and it was a great experience on just being able to connect with members of our community in a very different way. While I was seated with somebody who I have worked with for years now, this was the first time we actually did something that was more like fun and also learning about where we're coming from and just the challenges and the supports that we see in our community. And I remember leaving that meeting feeling like, holy smokes, this is the first time we're actually doing something that's like not work and seeing each other like person to person and being able to have these conversations, because we've spent all these years like working on how to support our students and like work, what do we need to do? But that was the first time we actually sat down and had those conversations. So it was really beautiful for me to participate in that. And I want to thank the superintendent and also Sweta, who's a lovely community member, for leading that piece.
Trustee Hopwood?
I do. I have a few. So I was also at the District English Learner Advisory Committee Town Hall last week, facilitated by CBO Wu and Director Sinclair. And that was interesting. Also, I would encourage people to attend these meetings. They're on Zoom, and I think having had more attendance would have been great, just to have more feedback. So there's another meeting, as has been mentioned, tomorrow night is the Special Education Town Hall, which I'll be at as well, but I would love just as many people to come as possible because we want to hear everyone's voices. I also attended, along with Vice President Inkelis, the Elementary All-Instructional Leadership Team meeting on the 29th, which was facilitated by our Director of Teaching and Learning, Karen Schreiner, and that was super insightful. I really appreciated that opportunity. And talking of mentioning the co-construction of the elementary schedules and the superintendent's report, and that's kind of primarily what that meeting on the 29th was focusing on. It was looking at reflecting on the current scheduling practices to identify potential changes for the next school year. So this is a great time to be doing lots of notice. And that, I think, is my commitment. Thank you.
Great. Vice President Inkelis? No? Okay. I had a few. On the 29th, I was at the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee with CBO Wu and others. We had a really good conversation about selling bonds to begin paying off some of our first set of costs, and reviewed some of the master plan work that we saw here that came from HKIT. So that was great. We need 3 members. We've got 3 openings for a member at large, a member active in a business organization, and a member of a bona fide taxpayers organization. So if you are one of those 3 things and want to help get involved in how we shape up and keep track of our spending on these large bond measures, the CBOC is the place for you. We also had that with Trustee Boyd, and I had the Board Policy Committee on the 5th, and we reviewed about 7 policies that you'll see later in this meeting. I do want to call out, there's one policy that we reviewed and moved forward that we're not going to show, and that's the allergy policy. There's a revised allergy policy. And so we're going to bring that to the next board meeting, which I think is later this month, and really do that so we can have a deeper conversation, bring some transparency and comment and what have you about that. And then just last night, the Tech Master Plan Committee was convened. We had some of the work of 5 different subcommittees that are pulling together a master plan for technology for the district. Great conversation, teachers, parents, students, staff. Like, it's always good to hear that diversity of voices as you think about a particular problem set. We've all got some revisions to do and incorporate before our next meeting in April, and all this is sort of building towards a master plan that will be delivered here to the board probably in the June timeframe. And with that, I'll move on to board reports. Trustee Boyd.
Hello. Okay, so I have 2 items tonight, both to do with Black History Month. The first is to make sure that everyone knows about our annual Black History Month celebration happening this Thursday, February 12th, from 6 to 8 p.m., so starting at 6 p.m. At the Little Theater in the high school. It's a wonderful community-wide event every year. There will be students performing and participating at all grade levels. We have great food. It's a great chance to have community with each other, so please do come. All are invited and very much encouraged to attend. And my other item is I am going to be reading a poem, one of my favorite poems. This is by Ms. Nikki Giovanni. It is called Ego Tripping, There May Be a Reason Why. And this is in honor of Black History Month. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert with a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes. I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle, so swift you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built new ark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name, all praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sewed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal, I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky.
That's lovely. I'm sorry, Trustee Khan, I believe you need to go next.
It wouldn't be the same if I, wasn't left for a loss of words after Trustee Boyd. So first and foremost, I apologize for missing the last board meeting. I was sick, so it was better to just rest at home and watch from Zoom. But I'm glad to be back. Since then, I've attended the IIC meeting and the school site meeting at the high school. It's been a great learning opportunity for me, going from a very elementary school focus to be able to learn what is happening at other sites. We also had Principal McNally and Superintendent Stone go over the budget workshop with the IIC members and just be able to get feedback around the budget and how it works, and just go over some of the assumptions that folks might have about how the budget works, but what the reality is. And so it's always good to just, be able to learn about all of that. Next, the OVPTA elections are in full swing. The call for election slates technically ends tomorrow at 3 p.m. However, even if you are not on the slate, you can still run for a position during our association meeting in March, We highly encourage people to run for the slate, though. However, it just makes our life easier to know, what the commitment looks like. Next, PTA is hosting yet another one of our OV community care events where we will be distributing fresh bread donated by Acme Bread this Wednesday right after school at 3 p.m. This is, again, an effort to just support our families during a particularly financially difficult time. As well as this Friday, we'll have our annual dance themed Colors of Ocean View at 6 p.m. at the NPR alongside our 4th grade bake sale fundraiser. The fundraiser will help our 4th grade students go to Angel Island, which is a very beloved trip, and it's very pricey, so we want to make sure we can make it happen. Next, the Swana Parent Engagement Group will be hosting their annual Ramadan Iftar this February 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Ocean View Multipurpose Room. Come join us for a lovely potluck and activities. The following day, AAPI Parent Engagement Group will be hosting an annual Lunar New Year event from 4 to 6, again at the OV Multipurpose Room. And, join us for the community potluck, performances from our Chinese after-school program, as well as other activities and games. Lastly, and certainly not least, I want to appreciate the Ocean View PTA as well as our teachers who helped host a Kindness Week rally before school January 30th. Obviously we don't want our kiddos to miss school, but we also want them to know that they can represent their voice and make their voice heard in whatever way is appropriate and possible for them. And so I appreciated them hosting a rally right before school. We had plenty of students who showed up to make signs, who baked goods like cookies and cupcakes to fuel their classmates as they were at the rally. And it was just overall just a really beautiful, wonderful event to see more than 100 people show up so early, especially when our kiddos struggle to get up in the morning sometimes. And we had so many students say that they felt really, appreciative of everyone that showed up, as well as parents who later shared with many of our PTA members how the rally meant so much to them and their child, and to be able to have difficult conversations in a child-friendly way, and that it was just a very empowering and moving event for everyone. So just wanted to shout out our teachers and our PTA for making that possible. That is all.
Thank you. Trustee Hopwood?
Thank you. I've spent quite a bit of time at Marin School in the last week. So there was a site council meeting last Tuesday, and Principal Poole presented some assessment data which showed some great middle of the year progress from in students in order to begin site budget conversations. And there'll be an opportunity for families to provide some feedback in a survey. Also had the Marin Morning on Wednesday morning, followed by coffee with the principal. So Marin Morning, you could hear about how different grades participated in the Great Kindness Challenge Week, how they created a culture of kindness and the kinds of acts of kindness that they performed, and also Black History Month, how the different grades observed Black History Month and us continuing to observe it. And we had the 5th graders sing the Black National Anthem. And as Trustee Boyd said, the celebration on Thursday at the theatre will be wonderful. Next PTA meeting, then it was that evening was actually PTA meeting, which was great. And then the next one will be on the 4th of March. And I'm meeting with Director Reid at ACC this week too. So I have that secondary site, but I haven't yet spent time there.
Great. Vice President Inglis.
Yes, so there's a lot of PTA excitement happening in the next couple weeks at AMS. They're hosting a Valentine staff lunch on Friday, as well as an ELD Valentine lunch for the kids. The next PTA meeting at AMS on March 6th, they're planning to have a parent ed night to talk about transitioning 8th graders from middle school to high school. So if you have an 8th grader, definitely try to attend. As you can see, the PTA funds and hosts a lot of activities for kids and teachers, but their membership is down. So here's a little plug for AMS PTA. If you haven't joined, please do. This time last year, they were at 384, but they're only at 270 this year. And their Cobrathon is happening right now. I will be attending my first AMS Site Council meeting on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Khan got many of my Ocean View updates. The one I'll throw in is that I can't believe she actually missed was tomorrow is Black History Month and Friendship Sing-Along, so at 8:30. So I'll add that one onto the list, but lots of good stuff happening over at Ocean View. I want to comment a little bit about, so at the Tech Master Planning Committee last night that I talked about earlier, one of the goals of that committee is to kind of talk about ideas about how technology can be used to help our kids. But, one theme that came up was that there were time constraints. Another theme that came up is that there's financial constraints. I really, I wasn't really surprised by these comments, but it's got me thinking, and one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. And in education, we tend to focus on scarcity. We have limited funds that don't increase in meaningful ways year over year, and certainly not at a rate to keep up with expenses. It's easy to look at the funds as we get as a zero-sum game. If someone spends money on one thing, they are taking away money from my thing. I'm not sure how to do it, but I'd love to change from the scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. How do we have a united conversation about how together we can work to get more funds for our kids and make the pie bigger for everyone? How can we focus on things that we have a lot of and take advantage of? An amazing community with talents and expertise that many educational systems envy. I certainly recognize that we need to make choices, but I want to challenge all of us to take a constructive approach and not view one idea as a threat against my idea. I'd rather have an optimistic focus on what we can do for our kids. So that's my report, and now we'll move on to staff reports.
President Mahoney.
Yes.
I forgot to say one very important
And it's also a phone. Go ahead. What else do you have?
I very much apologize, but I just learned before this meeting that one of Albany Unified's former students, an Ocean View student, I think it's Elisa Liu. Yes. Alyssa? Okay, Alyssa Liu is a gold medal figure skater in the Olympics, and I did not know that. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our students out there who are doing amazing things, and especially appreciate her accomplishment. And also just a reminder, you never know what will be in the future, so keep moving forward.
As a parent of a daughter who's obsessed with figure skating right now, she's also the reigning world champion. And we'll be skating later this Olympics for individual gold, and hopefully or an individual medal. So
amazing,
good luck to her.
Very cool. Good luck to her.
And good luck to all the athletes, because it inspires me every day. I've never watched so much curling in my life. Okay, but now on to staff reports. CBO Wu to talk about our safety update.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Stone, Executive Assistant to Superintendent. Slowly losing my voice. I've been sick for like over 3 weeks. Been coughing, so I appreciate the time this evening for me to be here to actually provide an update on our safety at our school district. I want to first and foremost just appreciate everyone who has openly expressed their opinions with regards to, how they feel about the safety, what we should focus on, what our priorities should be, as it comes to like providing school safety for our community. So I definitely appreciate that. I'm thankful for being here to be able to provide that update and also kind of ask for additional feedback. With that said, as part of our whole safety update, it's really all about looking into our school district. What are the things we need to improve? And one of the biggest things that come up is actually improving our overall infrastructure. So when we talk about infrastructure, what are the kinds of things that we're talking about? It's a lot like when you're building a house, you have to have a base layer, a foundation. You got to build the trenches for the electricity, for the plumbing, and so forth. So for me, as a part of my responsibility of what I'm overseeing, is ensuring that we're building that foundation and we're building that base layer for that. Some of the things as it relates to the school district with infrastructure are things like making sure we have enough wiring to secure all the cameras in place, making sure we have consistent network connectivity that's reliable, making sure that our phone systems allow for us to consistently communicate with one another on updates that are happening around our campuses and so forth, and just making sure that we're ensuring accessibility to all of our students and staff. So with that said, what does good infrastructure really mean? It kind of encompasses everything, right? It's all the above. And so that's actually what we're spending a lot of time on right now, is spending effort on identifying those things that'll help us improve our overall infrastructure, which could include things like security cameras, like alarms, like network accessing systems, ensuring that there's enough computer equipment everywhere, ensuring accessibility, and so forth. So with that said, I hope my technology works, as we just had the Tech Master Plan meeting yesterday. Uh-oh. It is on. Let me hit that. And if it doesn't move, if I can ask for some help to take me to slide 4, please. I won't take you through like all of the slides, as it was a part of the attachment for the pre-read. What I do want to show here is actually kind of like the roadmap, the history, and then kind of take you over to the present. So in 2013-14 was the last time we had an updated facilities master plan. In 2023, there was a superintendent's safety task force that was formed. 23-24, there was a facilities needs assessment. Granted, it wasn't a full-fledged update on the facilities master plan. And then in May, there was a comprehensive district safety audit. And then in May 2025 to the present, the bond approval occurred. And in addition to that, we're also updating a facilities master plan to help us prioritize those projects that we need to focus on the most. Can I have some support? Moving to slide 12, please. Thank you. There's always a backup plan. That's the good part. So with that said, site-based solutions for after-hours access has been a concern for folks. The whole point is to not actually lock people out, but rather to keep people that don't belong on our school property away from our campus. It's about safeguarding. With that said, how do we do that? It's a collaborative effort. So we've been seeking input, from our community members, from our staff. We've been having side conversations with one another to figure out what are the things and the values that we should include as a part of this update. Slide 14, please. So the way that we can do that, as we're talking about, discussing about time and money being a restraint for us, we're leveraging what we have. We're looking into the resources that are already available. We have restricted capital funds for infrastructure, and in particular, designated amounts that's supposed to be used towards actually developing safety and security systems for all of our campuses. So these restricted funds are funds that we must use for those designated purposes. It cannot be used for our normal operations, like paying basically for core school operations. Slide 16, please. So what is some of the progress that we made so far? Some of the key highlights, this is not in full detail, is we've spent a lot of effort actually improving the lighting around our campuses. We've updated entryways at Albany Middle School. We've increased mobility for campus supervisors, particularly at Albany High School. We've continued maintenance updates to gates, particularly in the high traffic areas. Granted, we're dealing with some challenges with them being vandalized, broken, so we're trying to address that as well. We've updated phone intercom doorbells. We're working on updating the phone intercom doorbells at Marin and Cornell, as the staff has consistently got up every time. So on one end, we have the safeguard to make sure that they run it through the front office staff first before they're allowed entry. The hard part is it wasn't very efficient, so we've decided to put forth, some resources towards that, so they don't have to get up every time someone shows up at the door. We also are working on updating our security camera systems at AMS and AHS. The RFP was already released. As a matter of fact, on February 17th, we actually have a vendor walkthrough with anyone interested in providing a proposal to us for our security cameras. And then in addition to that, as Trustee Mahoney and President Trustee Mahoney updated, is that we've talked about the facilities master plan. We've watched HKIT's update on that. So with that said, I want to acknowledge that we're hearing everyone's feedback, the hard work that they present. I've seen and witnessed staff basically come early, leave late to actually prepare, whether they're preparing, for their class session for the next day, or if we're preparing for weekend events and so forth. I acknowledge and I know that people are working incredibly hard. I've heard the stories. I mean, this is the effort that we're making right now is really about making sure that we're safeguarding our people, our students, and on top of that, ensuring that we have facilities that are accessible basically to our staff. At this time, I'll take questions.
Great, thank you. Before I go to the board for questions or what have you, I'll allow some public comment. Is there anybody in the room that would like to comment on this? I did, okay. Is there anybody on the phone? I've got one. Allowed to talk. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, Patty, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I'm a teacher at Cornell Elementary. I just really wanted to share some of the concerns I have about an alarm system, and they were covered in the presentation, but I really want to bring them to light, which is that access to our school sites allows us to do the important work. As we know, teaching is not a 9-to-5 job. I am grading papers as I'm watching this. And so having access to our classrooms really gives us the flexibility to kind of prep the things that we need and correct the things that we need and reset the things that we need. And then my second concern is that we seem to have some trouble getting these systems that we're upgrading to work consistently. And my worst nightmare is to have more of our instructional time taken away with alarm systems that are going off when they're not supposed to. We have our bells at Cornell are sometimes not working. Our intercom often goes in and out. And so for me, adding yet another system that can fail is causing me to sort of have some concerns. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate the hard work that you do. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments out in Zoom, go to questions and comments from the student board members. Nope. Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
I have a couple questions. So we're in the process of developing the facilities master plan, and I'm curious why the alarms are coming, or seemingly are coming before that's done, not in conjunction with the bigger plan.
So as we know, it takes time to actually do the homework and to research and make sure that we're approaching things appropriately. And so right now, we're actually concurrently doing the homework right now and getting feedback. I forgot to mention at the end of my presentation that, you know, we actually published a survey to get all of the staff feedback. So if you haven't, you know, seen that yet, please reach out to your site leaders for that, because I'd love to hear your opinion about what you think we should, you know, focus on the most, what's the most important, you know, ensuring that we safeguard our campuses. So with that said, with the homework, the time it takes to develop a facilities master plan, as you're aware, it also takes an enormous amount of time. So we're also concurrently working on doing the homework to understand basically what type of alarm system should we have, and if we have it, what are the functionalities? What are some of the logistics we need to make sure we take into consideration? So in this case, we're trying hard not to move too fast, per se, but we're working concurrently in alignment with the facilities master plan as it's being updated.
Can I also just to step back a minute around this whole conversation? So part of the reason why we wanted to have this conversation now is that we in the consent calendar there's something for guidepost around, and that's the conversation we were having before, is around cameras and upgrading our cameras. When I first got here, the conversation was we need cameras. The cameras are not working. We need better cameras. What ended up being the conversation then is, and very much to Patty's comment, the system we currently have for just our wiring needs work. And to your point, we're in the middle of a facilities master plan. Part of that is we need to have the infrastructure to make sure that our cameras are going to work appropriately. And when you start to look at the different companies that talk about cameras, they need to also look at all the different parts of the security. So just having cameras alone is only one kind of part of the whole puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is access. So there was a lot of discussion about keyless entry. Again, back to the comment, if you have keyless entry and the system isn't working and the wires aren't good, the keyless entry is not going to work. So the cameras, the keyless entry, and then the last part is when you're thinking of the whole security of a campus. And again, I want to really, truly reiterate, this is not at all to keep our staff out. We want look, if our staff wants to work, please go for it. We want our kids to have the very best. That is not the goal. The goal is to keep our staff and our students safe. So when our staff is at our campuses during the weekend and after hours, right now we have no knowledge of who is coming and going that's not our staff. And so what's great about something like an alarm system is there's a stay mechanism. So we can have our staff there safe and sound working inside. Other people can't enter, and if they do, then we're going to know about it. The other thing, though, again, and it's not just alarms, and I think this conversation is kind of going a little bit towards, this is an alarm conversation. It's not. I know that there's concern about it. It's about safety overall and the safety of our campuses. And because we had the safety task force and there was a safety audit and there were all these things that happened, there's information that we have to do something about, and we can't wait until our full facilities master plan is done to do some of these safety upgrades. So the camera project was already up and running, but we had to kind of take a minute and step back for a second and say, is that the first thing we're doing, or are we upgrading our wiring? Because our wiring actually has to be upgraded in order for our cameras to actually function and work. And when you're doing the upgrading for wiring and you have campuses that actually aren't alarmed, they're not even set up for it, we need to think about that too. And again, the point is that we're trying to keep everyone safe. It's definitely a conversation, which is why we're trying to seek feedback and input and hear all the concerns and the things that can go wrong with it. And I think, again, that's a great point. Alarm goes off. Who's going to turn it off? There's, if the wiring's messed up, what's going to happen? So we want to make sure we're getting all of that. So as we're putting our plan together, we have all that feedback. We also know that our bond is beautiful and amazing and wonderful, and thank you so much, voters, for it. It's only going to go so far. So we also need to be thinking about all of these other kind of upgrades along with the other capital funds that we already have that are already earmarked for it.
Trustee Hopwood?
I think my concern would be sort of adjacent to what Vice President Inglis said, which is, our facilities needs assessment identified about $144 million worth of projects, and our bond, Measure L, is 63 million, I think. And so, as just mentioned by the superintendent, we need to be quite careful with how we spend our money. And I guess my concern would be that we're potentially making big improvements to sites or campuses that could be some drastic remodeling at some point in the near future. We've talked about, say, the arts building at the high school and HVAC and how there's not much point addressing that problem, which is in need of replacement because the whole building is in need of replacement. So I guess that would be my concern, is the idea of committing a huge amount of money to safety upgrades, which are clearly necessary. I totally understand that. And then perhaps forfeiting it if we were to do some bigger projects. So I'm not sure how that would work.
From the funding perspective, we don't anticipate that the alarms itself would actually come from the bond funds. We're really trying to reserve that actually for the things that are recommended from the facilities master plan. We have existing funds from our state facilities grant funds that is designated towards improving safety on our school campuses.
With that, wherever the money comes from, if these systems were upgraded and then we had more sort of, major work done at some point in the near future, would that render those upgrades kind of obsolete, basically? I guess that's my concern, is that what we've spent then would not be functional.
You want me to? From my perspective, the last thing we want to do is to put something up that we're going to have to tear down. I witnessed that before in my previous life. They spent over $100,000 upgrading a portable that they bulldozed the next year, right? So that obviously doesn't make sense. So we are taking the prioritization of that into consideration. We won't put the district, at risk for putting something up and spending all these resources on upgrades just to take it right back down because of what was recommended in the facilities master plan.
And if I could kind of speak to that too, I think that's part of the reason why we're taking a small step back from just pushing forward with the camera project. Although the cameras are important, and they're during the day important as well as after hours important, and we recognize that, and they're definitely something we have to do. But we have to also think about all the parts around the cameras. So if we spend whatever the amount is on cameras, and then somebody goes in and disables the cameras, and that then the camera, all the money we just spent on the cameras means nothing. So we have to think about all the different parts of it and not one part at a time. And so as we did more and more research around the best practices around keyless entry, camera systems, security and safety, alarms, again, is like one of the table legs that you kind of need to think about. Again, it's not about, how we create the system around it is what we need to work on with everybody else, but it's just part of the conversation. And the goal and the hope is that whatever we are doing with the camera system is something that we don't have to then go back and redo later on. That said, part of the facilities master plan is looking at the 10-year plan and going, okay, if we do this now, when are we going to have to go back and fix it? Because that's the maintenance, the deferred maintenance plan that also needs to go with the facilities master plan. Because anytime you do an upgrade, you also have to have a plan for how you're going to fix it over time. And so that's the tension of the work, but that's what we're doing right now.
Questions? I guess I have a comment. I guess I would say, so I appreciate you bringing this forward. I also I'm going to, I don't want to say I'm pushing back against the thoughts about spending money now versus later, but I do think we need to be mindful that we're not talking about putting in a new building, we're talking about student safety. And so I do think there may be places where we need to spend money from a safety perspective that may make sense, and if it's slightly less effective, we should definitely be having conversations about it, but I think we at least need to be mindful of that. I guess the question I would have is where do we think we are in the timing of sort of this whole approach? I'd love to understand when we think we're going to consider moving forward with some of these legs of the stool, to use the phrase, and then making sure that we have some sort of transparency to that and that sort of playbook that we think we're going to go forward with.
One of the things that I foresee in the near future is making sure that we take all the feedback that we get from the staff survey and kind of compile that and address all of the concerns before we move forward. So that would be like the immediate first step. And so depending on what the feedback is on there, that'll kind of help us to determine the future time frame on any implementation that we plan to do.
And you just I'm not going to hold you to it like a date, but are we talking weeks, months, years?
I'm thinking more or less like months.
Yeah, great.
I would also just mention that we're in the process right now with the RFP going forward around the camera project. So it's really connected. These are all connected.
Yeah, so
they're not separate.
Months, not years.
Yeah, but we are talking. We to your point, President Mahoney, this is around student safety and things that we were brought to our attention prior to my superintendency that we need to do something about. And so because we know about it, we have to do something about it. So we want to take feedback into account. We're clearly going to make a plan that is possible and doable and not keeping our staff out, because that is definitely not the goal. I want to reiterate that over and over again. As a former teacher who used to work very, very, very late into the evening, I understand. I also, if I could tell my young self to go home, I would tell my young self to go home. But that said, we also want to make sure that if we know that there's an issue, we are doing the best we can and not creating another problem as a result of it from a facilities perspective. So as soon as possible, I think our goal is that we are starting this project as soon as we can, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I just would want to make sure that we probably should have a conversation about that once,
Yes.
timing and what that looks like from a playbook perspective.
And just to be clear, I
Trustee
think
Allen.
my comment was not to minimize,
I'm sorry.
Well, no, for student safety, I just want to be clear. So I'm talking primarily about the alarm system, right? So I've heard, we've heard from teachers, about walkie-talkies, phones, cameras, and I'm glad that you've got the staff survey and you've obviously had some feedback from staff, but it seems like there are ongoing sort of easily fixable elements of student safety that we could focus on as a priority. I'm just talking about the alarm system.
And apologies, I didn't mean to imply that anybody on this dais didn't care about student safety. That wasn't my intent.
No worries.
And I do just want to say to that, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be all, and it probably should be all. And so what we need to do is look at the walkie-talkie situation, the PA system. When we're hearing that PA systems are not working, that's probably the most important number one safety priority. So, but again, we have to go to the wiring. And the wiring and our internet and reliability around that is probably one of the first things we're gonna have to do regardless of all of this. And that's kind of a big project. So we have to think, again, to your point, what's the low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing we can do, and the goal during the school day to keep our kids and our staff safe. And at the same time, we're doing the other thing too. It doesn't mean we do just one or the other.
Vice President Inglis.
So in one of your previous slides, there was a safety plan in 23 or 24. So I think it would be hugely beneficial to pull that back and talk about what was said then, assuming it's still relevant, and what we've done to date. Because it does feel like this conversation is about alarms and cameras. And to Trustee Hopwood's point, we're hearing a lot of other stuff, right, from teachers and staff, and I'm sure you guys are as well, but we need to see all of it, like, before I think we see an RFP on cameras or on alarms. Like, it has to be in its entirety if we're talking about safety. And then to the conversation about the wiring is massive, and if we are doing a facilities plan, the wiring is going to need to be updated in whatever schools we're talking about as part of that. So kind of to my first point, I have a hard time, having been involved in a lot of construction projects, to figure out how we really separate those without wasting money and being efficient. So I feel like we need a collective view on safety initially, and then understand how it is going to tie into the facilities master plan. Okay. So we don't waste money and do things out of order. And
I want to make one comment, though. I think one of the challenges on being on a board is you are jumping on a train that is already moving and has already moved. This board has already approved, this board being the Albany Unified School District Board, has already approved spending on the camera work. So I want to be careful, like, we're not for better or for worse, that decision was made and we have to live with it. So I think we seem to be sensitive to, like, it's a moving train, and let's correct it and make sure we're doing the right thing both for the district and our students, but also be sensitive that, like, I don't really feel like we should be going back and revisiting all of these decisions that have already been made within the last year and a half or whatever it's been. Any other comments? Trustee Boyd.
I don't want to put words in Vice President Inglis's mouth at all, but I think the request for looking at the full plan that was approved and understanding sort of status-wise where we are and what the whole, like, overarching picture is, like, having as broad and full a view of what we're trying to do as possible, and understanding how various things fit into those pieces and what is supposed to be happening in a year, to make sure that the thing we do now isn't like something that, actually should have happened after the thing that was happening in a year. Like, I think both the things can be true, that we're not re-deciding or, like, in law talk, relitigating something that's already happened, but also at the same time, we're all able to understand, like, a full picture of what's happening, what we think is happening in a year, what needs to happen before then. It sounds like Vice President Inglis has worked on many more construction projects than me, so she will have a better idea of what the order of things need to be than I do, but I appreciate her perspective and others' perspective. So I think there's that idea. I just wanted to make sure that comes through.
And I just want to make a correction. There wasn't a safety plan developed in 2023. So if we could go back to that slide number 4.
Yeah.
And I also want to, respectfully just name that in this time frame, we had a superintendent who passed away, then we had an interim superintendent, and now we have a new superintendent. So what happened in 2023 is the safety task force was convened. What came out of that meeting was we need to do a facilities needs assessment and then a safety audit. We have a safety audit that we've had since May of 2024 that has very clear, not just recommendations, but things we can't sit on that we need to do. And so one of the things that came out of this was the cameras. So I think back to the point of the board prior to my superintendency had already approved that we were going to do camera upgrades. I do want to name that part of the reason, and again, thank you, because I agree, we don't want to start something that we then tear down 2 years later. But one of the things that we know we need to do is we need to upgrade the cameras at the middle and the high school. The reality is neither of those schools are probably going to be a part of the bigger project, the bond project right now, because, part of the high school, yes, possibly, but where the cameras need to go and all of that is not necessarily a part of that project. We also have to do a wiring upgrade to those schools if we're going to put those cameras in. And so that's above and beyond, honestly, where we are with the bond. It's going to be a part of the facilities master plan. But if we're going to move forward with putting the cameras where our campus security have asked us many times, they've come in and stood in front of us, we need those cameras. Our principals have asked, our assistant principals, we do have to do something about it, because since 2024, we've been told there are certain things we just have to do. All of that said, there isn't a safety plan. And I think that that's what we're trying to develop with the master plan and again, with the deferred maintenance plan. All of these things need to be a part of that conversation so that we can have a really good plan moving forward. So we're not creating the Winchester Mystery House, where we're ready, doors to nowhere, and all of a sudden you open the door and you're at a brick wall. We're not trying to do that. What we're trying to do is be really smart about it. That said, we have to make these decisions that sometimes might have a feeling of a negative impact. So that's why we want to get some of we want to do better. Again, know better, do better, get more impact or get more input about the impact before we just jump to making a decision. But I just wanted to clarify, we don't have a safety plan. So if we want a safety plan, happy to have the board direct us to move forward with that.
So there may not be a safety plan, but if there is a list of recommendations, even if it's just a list that came out of that audit, and that's where the cameras and some of the other items that we've already done are on there, that would be helpful to see.
Yeah,
So we can see it all together and understand, like, what did we hear and what have we done, and tie it into what we're going to do in the future.
I was going to say, is it safe to say that the list of projects that you showed earlier are all from that district safety audit?
Yes.
I assume so. I also assume we have to be a little bit careful that we don't want to advertise all of our safety risks in a public setting as much as possible. Any other comments from the board? Great, thank you, CBO Wu, but I think you're up again for our review and action items. Our first item being resolution number 2025-20-26-09, support of applications for eligibility determination and funding designation of authorized district representatives. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's a long way of explaining that we need additional signatories for our official construction projects. Superintendent Stone and myself are actually not currently authorized to sign off on our construction projects, and we need to ensure that we can also sign off on them. So that's a part of what this resolution is. Process-wise, am I supposed to read through it? I forgot. Sorry.
I don't think you have to read through it, but
Okay.
Are there any questions from the board? Start with the student board members. No. Now I'll go to public comment. Any public comments from the public? Seeing none in the room. I see none on Zoom. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2025-26-09.
Mandy, you do the whole thing. Go ahead.
I second.
This being a resolution, I believe we need to do a roll call.
Student trustee Chodak?
Yes.
Student trustee Shepard? Yes. Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Khan?
Yes.
Trustee Hopwood?
Yes.
Vice President Inglis?
Yes.
President Mahoney?
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank
The
you.
resolution passes. Next item up is the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, AKA FICMAT, study agreement for management assistance. Superintendent Stone, I believe you're leading this one.
Yes, we would like to seek approval. So as I mentioned in my board report, we're actually going to start using FICMAT tools now to do our own internal audit of our special education programming and how we're using our money for that. That said, we're also hoping in the future to actually have FICMAT come in themselves and help us with this. Unfortunately, so many districts have asked FICMAT to come in and support them that they could not start working with us this school year. So it's going to have to be something that we start in the future. But what I would like to do is get approval for this so that when they are able to start to work with us, we can just start the project.
Questions from the board, starting with student board members? I'll go to public comment. Seeing none in the room, seeing none on Zoom. Do we have a motion? Really?
I move to approve the agreement with the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team.
I'll second the motion.
I believe we can just do through my voice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. And now, CBO, you're back. Hopefully you got a good rest there for the district financial audit report for fiscal 24-25.
Great. Thank you so much. So our school district completed our 24-25 annual audit. We worked closely with Christy White, particularly Bobby Fan, who I'd like to ask to move up to the panel, who can provide an update. But in a nutshell, it's a relatively clean audit with an unmodified rating.
Questions from the board, starting with student board members? Comments from the room? Seeing none.
Is he on there? Oh, okay.
Yes, I am.
There's Bobby Fan.
There he is. Was I supposed to let him in? Did I screw up? Do we have any questions, comments from the public comment? I don't see any questions online. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the audit report from June 30th, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Thank you, and thank you for coming, Mr. Fan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anytime. Take care.
Take care. We'll now move on to the approval of the consent calendar. I would like to pull. I've got two I have to pull. I'd like to pull letter K, which is the adopt revised grade/evaluation of student achievement item. And we're pulling I believe, which is also the Otis elevator services, which needs some review. Questions or comments, or anybody want to pull any of the other ones off the consent calendar? Student trustee Chodak.
So I was just curious why you pulled K.
K, the description does not match the attached policy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is weird.
Great question. Any other items or questions? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar without I or K?
I move to approve the consent calendar excluding items I and K.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent calendar passes. Now on to future board meetings and agenda planning. Items and topics for future board meetings. I have one item for future board meetings in order to work with schedules. We're gonna ask that we start with closed session at 6 o'clock and start open session at 7 o'clock. And then we'll have to look at what's on topic to figure out if we need to do an additional closed session at the end of the meeting.
Of interest, why is that?
We have a member who cannot make it here till 7. That's,
Sure.
yeah, and I want to be as accommodating as we can.
Oh, I understand. Perfect.
See Boyd?
So I don't know that this would need to be a future agenda item, but the Otis Elevator Company Contractor Services Agreement, is that coming back again? Like I think I thought that was going to be explained at some point, but I didn't know that we only get an explanation if we specifically ask, so.
CBO Wu, please don't sit down.
The short answer is yes. We will be bringing it back with a revised contract. I think we want to actually increase the scope of service. Yep.
Thank you. Good question. Anything else for future board items?
I don't know if it needs to be said, but the safety audit discussion.
Fair enough. Anything else? Okay. Now we will, I'll move to convene to closed session. In closed session, we will be talking of a conference with legal counsel about anticipated litigation, perform a public employee evaluation for the superintendent, and conference with a labor negotiator. Before we go to closed session, do I have any comments from the room? A comment? Seeing none, do we have any public comment on Zoom? Seeing none, I move that we retire to closed session. Thank you. Board has reconvened from closed session. In closed session, we took no action. I now move, it is now, I don't know, 9:22, and I move to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.